what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Kickash podcast, here with the AEW Full Gear Prediction Show. As I mentioned in the Dynamite review from earlier this week, I decided to kind of break it down into two separate episodes. That way it's a little bit easier to digest. That way to kind of give you a break in between shows as well. So if you kind of want to just check out the AEW Dynamite review first, since that's still fresh from last night, you can do so, and then check this out at a later time or whatever if you are more of a binge person. But to each their own, but I figured it'd be at least a little easier to kind of differentiate as well, especially with the AEW Full Gear card being so stacked as it is. But yeah, I don't really want to waste too much time here. As always, though, I do appreciate you guys for checking out the episode and all the love that you send. As always, feel free to follow also on Twitter at ASHMANNS or shoot me an email at kickashmann@gmail.com. I appreciate the feedback that you guys have sent so far. I hope I have responded to everyone who's sent me an email so far too, so I appreciate that also. But like I said, I kind of want to get into the episode here now since it is so stacked and we don't really need to waste too much time going into it. But yeah, here we go. The buy-in show for this year's Full Gear pay-per-view is headlined by a tag team match for the women's division with Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. This one is kind of a little 50-50, but kind of looking into what's happened recently, especially with Shida, I think more so myself, I'm going to give the edge to Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter here. I think Shida and Rosa, as much as I'd love to see Shida and Rosa get the victory here, especially with the tournament going on for the TBS championship that they're introducing here shortly, but I think with the injury to Shida's knee, I think they're really going to play that up because that was a lot of damage that Serena Deeb had inflicted to Shida. So I think they're still going to play off of that, and that'll kind of not eliminate Shida completely, but that's obviously going to give the advantage to Rose and Hayter in the match itself. So I think they can play off of that, and that way, Rosa and Shida don't take too much damage from the loss itself. Not that they probably would to begin with, but that way just kind of gives them that extra little layer of cushion. But I think this is going to be hopefully a decent match to start off the show. And normally with these buy-in preview matches, kickoff shows themselves, we only get maybe 1 to 2 matches, and then the bulk is the phenomenal video packages, in my opinion, that they do, breaking down the matches that are on the main card proper. So, like I said, I think this will be a good match, and this will be pretty solid just to get you in the mood for the pay-per-view itself going forward. But the next match that we would have on the actual card itself, and again, of course, we don't have the actual layout of the match or the card itself, but one of the matches that's listed here is the Super Click versus Christian Cage and Jurassic Express. This one is actually kind of tough for me. I'm not gonna lie. I was more surprised than I actually would have thought going into this match, making my prediction here. I kind of went back and forth just for a few reasons because of all the damage that, for instance, Jungle Boy has received the past few weeks, right? Being thrown off of the stage itself through the tables, and then the beatdown that he just got this week, almost got. And I don't know, it's just, yes, Christian Cage and Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy did get their revenge, or a little bit of it, with a concerto to Adam Cole, which I still don't know how I feel about, guys, with him getting the concerto and then facing, who did he face on Rampage? I'm drawing a blank here, but, Johnny Hungee, how could I forget? But, yeah, facing John Silver on Rampage just 2 days later, and for a match that wasn't really maybe even necessarily needed at this time, I don't know, I still don't know how to feel about that, but I appreciate Adam Cole at least addressing it and selling it and all that. But this match, like I said, I was actually struggling to pick a firm winner on, but I think I'm going to go with Jurassic Express here and Christian Cage. And with that, and this is me totally maybe reading into too much here, but I'm thinking with that, Jungle Boy is going to get, when I'm thinking, and here's where I'm struggling, because it's kind of 50-50 on if what's going to happen in my brain is going to happen. And here's what I'm thinking. So, the way that I see this playing out is Jungle Boy, of course, getting the brunt of the beating during the match, making a great comeback, Luchasaurus helping him out. And Luchasaurus is amazing, by the way. I hope he gets his moments here. But Jungle Boy, I feel, is going to get the pinfall here, maybe on Nick Jackson, for instance. I think Jurassic Express needs it a little bit more than the Super Click here. Yes, Adam Cole is still fresh in the company, but this isn't a singles match. This is a trios match, and I just think the Super Click are kind of indestructible in some aspects. And I think Jurassic Express as a team, especially, have taken quite a amount of losses recently, or at least in the big moments, in the big matches. So that's another reason why I'd personally like to see them get the win here. But with little signs that we've seen throughout the past few months, especially since Christian Cage has debuted, I think this may be a heel turn. And again, I could be way off base here, but I think Jungle Boy's going to score the victory. They're going to be celebrating, hands being raised, all that good stuff. And then Christian's going to turn. I don't know if it's going to be, probably not with a chair, because I don't think they're going to introduce any weapons or anything like that into the match itself to try to, or anything sneaky like that. But just maybe clock in Jungle Boy from behind, especially when Luchasaurus isn't looking. And then maybe if there's a weapon nearby, going to get it or something to that effect. But I don't know. Or maybe if it doesn't happen on Full Gear, maybe happening soon after. But I think that there really isn't much more for Christian and Jurassic Express as a trio to do together, and maybe they can just break up and just move on their separate ways, and Christian doesn't really have to turn heel. But I just think it would be cool, and I think it would really give Christian some new life, especially since it seems like his Impact run is over with losing the championship there, and I'm pretty sure their partnership between AEW and Impact has expired now, or at least the initial one that they had. So, and Don Callis, what I've heard also is Don Callis' agreement is separate from the initial partnership that they had. It's a completely separate deal. So that's why, for instance, we just saw him on Dynamite this week with Kenny Omega. But with Christian being back, quote unquote full time here with AEW, I think it'd be cool to see him as a heel. And I think it'd be cool. I mean, what better babyface in all aspects of the word to start off feuding with than Jungle Boy. And I think this would be a great platform for Jungle Boy as well to go up against someone with the tenure as Christian, to have an actual solid feud and something with substance to it, and just to have, even if it's just 2 months off of it or to the next pay-per-view or whatever, and they can have their blow-off match at whatever the next pay-per-view or one of their specials that they're going to have coming up with the new year, right? Maybe one of their New Year specials or something shortly after the start of the January timeframe. But I don't know, I think there's a lot of different ways that they can go with it. And also, too, depending on if you want to have Christian go get as much heat as possible with this, just completely demolish Jungle Boy, right? And Luchasaurus for that matter, but more so Jungle Boy, since Jungle Boy has that a little bit more emotional pull with the fans, or that a little bit more connection right now, since he's been receiving more of the spotlight as of late out of the two. But man, that would be a great babyface for Christian to turn against. And then, like I said, if Jungle Boy, depending on the severity of the beatdown, if he's gone for a while, and Christian can change his focus to Sammy Guevara, what better focus, and what other, I would say babyface, yeah, because that's exactly what Sammy's been lately. I don't know why I just blanked there for a second, but Sammy Guevara has been a phenomenal babyface lately, has been gaining a lot of momentum, and Christian Cage coming off of a turn like that, and going right after Sammy Guevara's claiming that he wants to be, that he wants the TNT title and all that, I think that could be very fun, and that would give time for Jungle Boy to come back, or they can just go straight into Jungle Boy first, and then I say you'd have to put Jungle Boy over being Christian in that feud, but then have Christian move on to Sammy Guevara later on, depending on if Sammy's still the champion at that point. But yeah, again, maybe way too much thought into it, and again, could be completely off base, but I just think that that's something that could manifest out of this trios match here. But if nothing else, I really wouldn't be shocked either to see the Super Click here win, and then to continue building momentum for themselves as well going forward. But my vote here is Jurassic Express with Christian. But again, wouldn't be surprised either way. That brings us to the next match on the lineup, which is the Inner Circle versus the Men of the Year and American Top Team. A lot going on here. There's not a lot going on here, but then again, not really much to break down, right? It's pretty pretty transparent and pretty blunt what this is. I don't want to call it a gimmick match, which I've seen reference. It's not necessarily a gimmick match. I think it is just a street fight itself, a Minneapolis street fight, but then I guess that in itself makes it a quote unquote gimmick match. But the way I kind of interpreted that, as some people were referencing it, is it's like a throwaway match, and I don't think it's going to be that. I think, of course, it's not one of the more serious matches on the card, but it's going to be fun for what it is, and being a street fight just gives them that much more freedom to use weapons and things like that, and to kind of cover up some, just, for lack of a better word, just green sides, from on the American Top Team side, rather. Of course, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page aren't green at all, but with your Dan Lambert being in there, he's obviously never wrestled a match, so just to kind of cover that up and just to give him a little bit more wiggle room there and like a security blanket. But I think this match is going to be fun. Part of me thinks that it's obvious, and it should be obvious, that Inner Circle is going to win here with the beatdown that they just gave, or that American Top Team just gave, especially to Chris Jericho on this past Dynamite by putting him through the table and all that. But I don't know if it's that obvious here. I guess I'm gonna say Inner Circle, but I don't know. Again, this is another one where I wouldn't be surprised if the heels win here either. But I'm gonna play this one safe and stick with Inner Circle. But I think and that's why I say too, because the moment here that we're really looking for is just for Dan Lambert to get his what, right, and his comeuppance too. So part of me thinks that if that's pretty much what the fans want, you can do that and still have them cheat, or not necessarily cheat because there's no rules, but do some shady shit to get over and just kind of take the short way out. But I think they're gonna play it safe here and give the W to the Inner Circle. But not going to be surprised if they don't. Next up on the lineup, we have Cody Rhodes and Pac versus Andre, just like Tony Schiavone, right? Andrade El Idolo and Malachi Black. This one, and I could be in the minority here, but this one I think you have to give to Black and Andrade. I think it is. It's pretty obvious what they're going for here, right? They're teaming up Cody to kind of get the crowd love off of Pac, which I referenced in the Dynamite review. It's so cool to see Pac being a babyface just by his moveset and certain things that he does in the ring, just to kind of confirm that he is, quote-unquote, a good guy. And it's so crazy to think, who would have thought a year ago, right, that Cody Rhodes would be the one, not necessarily struggling, because he's not struggling in that sense, but trying in a weird place and he's kind of begging in a sense for our love and the crowd's love, and using Pac to kind of get the quote unquote rub off of Pac in that sense to kind of get that crowd love back. But I don't know, this one I think people don't give Cody enough credit either, in the sense that yes, he's saying all this stuff, he doesn't want to turn heel, and he's not going to, and being completely blunt about it as well, and pretty much stating it word for word. But I think that's all playing into it, right? Because if he were to just turn immediately, or to be acknowledging us, and to be, okay, like, you want me to be a bad guy, I'll be a bad guy, and do little things here and there. I think him fighting it so hard as he is an interesting way and a twist to take it, but I think we're going to get it sooner rather than later, and I can't wait to see what that looks like. But I think a lot of people are expecting Cody and Pac to get the W here, and I could see it, but I don't think that's the way to go. I think you got to give it to Black and Andrade, so that's where I'm going. I'm going a W for them, and I actually would be surprised if Cody and Pac won here. Next up, we have MJF versus Darby Allen, two of the pillars of AEW's future, as MJF declared, which is pretty obvious. I don't think anyone would probably begrudgingly, disagree with him on that, right? There's a lot of things you can disagree with MJF on, but I don't think that would be one of them. This story has been an interesting one as well to me. I think part of me wanted a little bit more promo or mic wise from Darby, but I really appreciate and respect the amount of time that he was out selling the beatdown injury angle, right? From the ambush that we never, I don't think we ever got a definitive answer on who that was. I mean, it's obvious who we all assume, and, you know, it's obvious who it quote unquote is, but they never actually revealed that to us, thinking back on it now. But MJF here has I don't want to say he's carried it, because Darby has definitely done his part, but promo and mic wise, and again, it shouldn't be surprising at all, but man, just MJF is just unreal, man. He and the guy's 25, and by the way, if you guys follow him on social media, to see the shit that he says about his parents and about his mother in particular, I'm not gonna say what he calls his mother here, because that's just I don't know, but it's just the dude is ruthless, just utterly ruthless, and it's so great to see. He's just a piece of shit that you love to hate. So I think the fact that this match too is going to be an actual wrestling match and not a hardcore match, quote unquote, but just any like a coffin match or any type of non-disqualification type match that would allow weapons and things of that nature. I think that it's a good thing, and it'll be cool to have just a straight up match for Darby's sake, because we all know Darby for everything, all the crazy shit that he does, right? I mean, if you've seen Darby for any amount of time, you can get a sense of, and you know exactly what kind of competitor he is and the crazy shit that he does. But I'm really excited to see just a one-on-one wrestling match, and I think MJF is a great opponent for him to just release that side of him and to just kind of give his character even a little bit more layer to it. And, you know, as I was thinking about my predictions here, as much as Darby Allen probably needs this more, since he's kind of taken the loss in his profile matches as well, I just think you have to have MJF going strong here. MJF is just, not that it would hurt him, because I don't know what would hurt MJF necessarily, if there's any single thing that would, but I don't think that he needs to take the loss here. I think he needs the victory just to continue just being the piece of shit that he is, and just boasting about it, right? Just imagine hearing what he's going to say after this, because he can go on with still claiming that he's mentally broke Darby since he beat him in a wrestling match and he outmaneuvered him, and just take it a whole different way, especially if they were even thinking about continuing it on. But I don't think that's the case, though. I think this is going to be one and done for that matter. But my money here is on MJF. I don't think Darby's going to get the victory here. And honestly, I don't know what that means for Darby coming out of this. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, because like I said, even if he were to win, I don't really know where Darby would go forward. So I think that's something to put maybe some more thought into for a later time. But right now, I think the money is still here on MJF and the focus itself. Next up, we have the Tag Team Championship match, which is, of course, the AEW Tag Team Champions being the Lucha Brothers versus the AEW Tag Team Champions being FTR, which is, again, just so crazy to think about. And side note, too, just think back to when these guys were in NXT and WWE, right? And just imagine thinking 4 years, 5 years from then, they would be the AAA Tag Team Champions. So it's just crazy to think how much can change in a few years, especially in the world of wrestling itself. And I don't know, it's just, when I was looking at the graphic for the pay-per-view, it's just kind of surreal to think and to see their faces and how ironic it is that they're the AAA tag team champions. But that's part of what makes them being the champions so fun, and part of the reason why I sadly think that they're going to win here. I think that the Lucha Brothers are going to have a short reign, as much as it pains me to say. They haven't really been doing much since the Awesome, which could be match of the year for, quite frankly. But that awesome match at All Out that they had against the Young Bucks, where they won the tag team titles in that steel cage, which feels like forever ago in some aspects, but I don't know, it's just, they haven't really been doing much since then. And we've seen them obviously since then, but it's, I don't know, maybe not as impactful as I think we all may have thought and maybe hoped for. But at least they got this reign under their belt, right? And they can always lay claim, and that it can be not an excuse, but a reason in the future to come back and challenge for a future tag team title shot. But I think with all the focus on FTR and how well they've been doing as the AAA tag team champions, I think having them as double champions or double tag team champions would be fun and another cool layer here. So I think that I think that they should put the tag team titles on FTR, and then that way too they can revisit their history with Santana and Ortiz, who didn't really get, I guess, I was trying to think, did they get the third match with in their trilogy there after? I know that they got a match right after Cash was hurt, but it's just, I think we all can agree it didn't really end the way it properly should have with those two tag teams. So that'd be cool to have, and hey, you could put both tag team championships on the line for that matter, against Santana and Ortiz, and that'd be a kick-ass match. So I think that'd be fun, but my money here, like I said, is on FTR, and I don't know if that's a popular choice or if I'm going to be in the minority here, but again, let me know what you guys think and if you think I'm completely off and you think Lucha Bros have way more in the tank, but I don't know, and it's kind of sad too, like, I'd love for them to win, but I'm just not seeing it right now. But we then move on to the next match on the lineup here, and again, no official order, just the way that I have them written down. But we have the Women's Championship match, the World Championship match between Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Tay Conti. And I hate, no disrespect to Tay Conti here, but I think this one is probably one of the most obvious ones on the card, and that's Britt Baker retaining here. And again, me and DJ Kuso, shout out DJ again, but DJ was thinking Tay Conti may pull it off here, but I'd love to see it too, man, and I part of me would kind of be interested to see the upset response, right, from the audience and everyone, but I think Britt is just too hot right now, and I personally think the long-term story here is that Dr. Britt Baker retaining, maybe kind of, and I hate to say it, but not taking a back seat, but with all the bill going into the TBS Championship right now in the tournament, kind of letting that be the focus and still having Britt, kind of what she's been doing, right, just. And again, as much as I hate it, and I've bitched about it before, and will continue to bitch about it, having her at least backstage and doing the promo segments with interviews with Tony Schiavone, right? Her best friend. But I think that the next obvious opponent for her should be Thunder Rosa. I think the time has come, and with the reintroducing of Thunder Rosa, especially this week on Dynamite, and just how she wasn't, I'm not going to say she was the spotlight there, because I think that match was, the purpose of it was for Tay Conti also, but I think obviously Thunder Rosa stole the show again, and I think it's just Thunder Rosa, besides Britt, is probably one of the biggest stars that they have in that division, so it's, in my opinion, pretty obvious that at least Britt's next opponent is going to be Thunder Rosa, and that's why I think just it's not time for Tay Conti, as much as I hate to say it, and I love her, and I think she's improved a lot. And she's another one. If you think where she was a year ago and to where she is now, she's just, you can see she's really put the effort and the work and the training into it. So, yeah, she's totally going to be a champion. And I had actually thought at one point she was a good running for maybe being the inaugural TBS championship. But again, that kind of determines, or that's determined on a whole bunch of other factors, which is a whole other story. But I just don't think it's right. It's time for right now for Tay Conti, so I'm sticking with Britt as much as I hate to say it, and for Tay Conti's purpose. But I'm Team Britt pretty much all day, every day, especially for this match here. But mainly because I'm hoping that we get a rematch for Thunder Rosa and Britt going forward. But Britt is getting my money here in the W to retain and to move on to her next opponent. But after that, we have. Next on the lineup, looking like CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. I don't know if there's ever been a match that has this much hype with such little time-wise build to it, if you truly think about it. And that should be like one of the biggest compliments you can give to it if you think about it, right? They have, had 2 weeks to establish an actual feud. And again, if you've listened to me in the past, the way this started off, I was a little kind of I was a little leery that why CM Punk was so pissed about being interrupted. It's wrestling. Everyone gets interrupted. You're you're not a wrestler if you're not interrupted, right? So it's like I was kind of like, what's the real beef here? And I think obviously what they did on Rampage in that promo segment, and especially Eddie, I think he just kind of stole the show and stole the segment in that respect. But from the initial promo to the follow-up on Dynamite, the backstage pretty much brawl that they were having with each other, because at this point too, and it was the perfect follow-up, like I mentioned on the review show, there's nothing else that these two guys can say to each other. They took jabs at each other. Punk called him a bum, which I don't know why, but to me that's just like the main thing or one of the main things that stood out verbally, at least from their promo, was just Punk calling Eddie Kingston a bum. And just having the fans boo that right after, because I think it showed too that, yeah, like, we love Punk, and I love Punk. If you know me, you know I love Punk. But it showed too that, and I don't know if it's just the love that we have for Kingston. I don't know if if Punk were to call just your typical babyface a bum, right? If they would have booed him then. But I don't know. It was just an interesting little raw moment there, for lack of better words, and to show that, yeah, like, you're Punk, but we love Eddie too. So I think that speaks wonders for Eddie Kingston. As it's weird calling him a character, but Eddie Kingston's a character too because of how real he's been lately. But I think this is, like what I said with the Britt Baker match, pretty obvious in regards to the winner here being Punk. But Eddie Kingston himself said he's not really concerned with getting the win here. He's just looking to pretty much beat CM Punk's ass. So Punk is going to get the win here, as he should. And as regards to Trunks, or the Long Boys as he calls them, the long tights that he wears now, I think you ditch both, and I think you bring out old CM Punk with the basketball shorts, right? So with this type of brawl going against Eddie Kingston, you called out your ROH days. I say you go full basketball shorts, knee pads, all that good shit, and just he does have the long hair, so if you want, you can go blonde. I don't know if you guys remember Blonde Punk. Not saying go that crazy, but man, like, I just think it'd be kind of cool, a cool visual to see, right? But if he's not going to go basketball shorts, at least do trunks. My vote. And I don't know why, again, I care so much, but it's just a visual thing. And CM Punk in the trunks, to me, is just, I don't know, it's just more appeasing, as weird as that sounds. But yeah, if I had any type of vote here, which I think it'd be cool if he would start like a poll to see what the majority of fans think, or if anyone else even cares for that matter. But I say for this match, just for Kingston, you go basketball shorts, retro Punk to ROH days. And if you haven't seen it, definitely pull up the Google machine and check it out. He just looks cool, and that was just like hardcore back in the day Punk. So I think it'd be pretty fitting here too. Next up on the lineup, and what may, as crazy as this may sound, but what may be tied for me personally as the match that I'm most looking forward to, is Miro and Bryan Danielson, dude. Just, first off, Miro. Again, you know me, you've listened to me in the past. His promos are just a highlight of Dynamite every week, and Rampage for that matter. But Miro, what he can do in 30 seconds to a minute promo-wise is just such a masterclass, and just such a work of art in some respects when you look at it, and just how simple it is. And like I mentioned on the Dynamite review show, he's just standing in a dark room, one light on him, talking about, of course he has a story to it, being the Redeemer, and the focus being on God and how God let him down, and he's questioning God, putting him in the tournament, to face Bryan Danielson after he stripped the TNT title from him, talking about if the sacrificing of his neck or Bryan Danielson's. So it's just so well done, and it's such a masterful just work of art that he can do in such a short amount of time. So, and the fact too that he was out of the tournament, replaced Jon Moxley, and again, well wishes to Mox out there. I hope he's doing well. But man, like, the fact that he wasn't even in, or he was in the tournament, lost, and now he's back in the tournament facing Bryan Danielson, and it makes sense. Like, we're not sitting here like, oh, it's obvious that Bryan's gonna win or anything like that. And for that matter, I don't think Bryan goes over here. I think, yes, Bryan has been on a rampage, no pun intended, but in putting on his own type of masterclass in the ring for that matter. But I don't think Bryan needs to win the tournament. I think this is part of Bryan Danielson, whether he's Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan, his character as a wrestler, part of his ever telling story, right? Like, he's always the underdog. He's always going to battle from underneath. And I think not winning this tournament is the right thing to do here. And as much as it's going to suck, and don't get me wrong, Bryan wins here, I'd be just as happy and ecstatic for him because huge Bryan Danielson fan going way back. But I think you give it to Miro here. I think for God's protection too, right? I think Miro needs to win this match against Bryan Danielson, win the tournament as a whole, and I think he would be a perfect challenger for the champion going forward, which we'll get into here in a second. But I just think I'd love to know maybe some time from now, not anytime soon, but I'd love to know the original thought process with it being originally Mox versus Bryan Danielson, maybe from Tony Khan in an interview, if Mox was going to originally go over here and what the plans were originally going to be. But of course, with Moxley being out and Miro being the replacement, I don't know if they're still going with, Bryan is just not going to lose regardless, or if they're going to switch it up here or what. But in my opinion, I think you give it to Miro, regardless of what the original outcome was going to be regarding Bryan winning or losing. I think you got to give it to Miro. I think you give it to Miro, and it sets up perfectly for, like I said, him being the challenger for the upcoming champion who may or may not retain going forward. But just think of the promos and interviews that Miro will give when he wins this tournament. Like, a happy Miro, I don't... Maybe we don't want to see a happy Miro. Maybe, the magic in Miro is being angry at God. But I don't know. I just think this is a whole nother layer that could be great. And he doesn't even need to win the title. And that's a whole nother, something to look into once we get to that point. But right now, my money is on Miro. You got to give this to him. And Bryan Danielson is not going to be hurt. And I think if anything else, it could be a nice reprieve, too, to kind of give Bryan a loss here. That way he's not holding any type of streak or anything like that. And just kind of break that before it even becomes a thing and make it not a focal point, and maybe give Bryan a week off or something, as much as it would suck for everyone being in Virginia next week, Norfolk. But I don't know. I just see Miro here. And lastly, the main event. I'm pretty certain, like I said, we don't know the lineup for the rest of the card, but I'm certain this is the main event, is Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, versus Hangman Adam Page. This one, I kind of put some thought into, and here's why. Part of me could very easily see Omega retaining the title, as crazy as that sounds. But if you think about it, there's a lot of upcoming challengers that Kenny Omega could face being the champion. Like, there's just so much more that you could dig into, and if you really think about it, he's barely even scratched the surface opponent-wise, being the champion. And I don't know, I think that there's a lot that you could do with Kenny as the champion, but looking back, and when you sit down and look at the whole story of Hangman Page from the beginning of AEW, from the initial press conference to him, of course, facing Jericho in the inaugural championship match and losing, and then the whole story, which I'm sure they're going to have a phenomenal recap, and I think it starts at 11 p.m. on Friday, right after Rampage, their countdown to Full Gear. But that recap, I just can't wait for it, to see the whole story just put nicely together. But as much as I would love to see just the heat and the hatred that Kenny could get from retaining the title here, I think with Tony Khan being who Tony Khan is and what type of company AEW is and the story that Hangman Page has here, and the simple fact too, Hangman is he's from Virginia, and obviously that's where they're going to be. I'm sure everyone knows at this point for Dynamite coming up this following week, which is obviously the first show after Full Gear. And you couldn't have drawn this up more perfectly, logistic wise, if you tried. Just with the past 2 years to have it culminate here at Full Gear, which is the name from Hangman Adam Page. I'm almost certain of that he named this pay-per-view itself and its inception. Getting his victory against Kenny Omega at Full Gear, the place is going to go nuts, and then having his ceremony, right? His first inauguration as champion in his home state the following week. It couldn't be more poetic than it would be playing out. So as much as I would love to see Kenny Omega win, just to see how pissed off people would get, as evil as that sounds, you have to go Hangman Page here. And yeah, like there's been a whole bunch of talk of, is Hangman the right guy? Is it the time in the sense that he can be the face of the company? And I say yes. I say the love that he gets pretty much every week on Dynamite, every time he comes out, regardless of what city they're in, the fact that just the whole story itself, right? We all know the story. You don't need to break it down here, but I think too, what people forget is, like, it doesn't have to be a permanent thing before I even continue there. Like, if he doesn't, and if it turns out a month from now it's not going as well as it seems, he doesn't have to keep the title for long. As much as I'd love to see him get at least a 6-month reign out of this, I think what you do perfectly is you put the title on Hangman Page, give him the ball. You know, that's the logic and the model that everyone, and especially in the wrestling industry, loves to go off of, right? Give Hangman the ball, let him run and see how far he can go. And if for whatever reason it doesn't turn out as well as everyone may have thought, you can make adjustments at that point. But I think it's going to be more detrimental to Hangman, especially as a character, if he doesn't win here, because it's Rusev during prime Rusev Day, right? And right when WWE and everyone was just clamoring for WWE to take Rusev seriously, and they kind of just killed it from him and just took all the momentum away from him. I'm afraid that that's kind of what would happen here too. So again, I'd love to see Kenny Omega retain, just for those that just evil, just reaction wise. What to think the heat that Kenny would get coming out in Virginia next week. And not saying Virginia is a Chicago or anything like that, but man, like, you want to talk about some pissed off people. And yeah, you could have Kenny screw Hangman at Full Gear, and then maybe have Tony Khan announce that Hangman's going to get his return match in Virginia and have him win the title in his home state, which would be very cool to hear too. But I don't think that's the kind of Booker Tony Khan is, and I just don't think that he wants to piss off the fans in that respect, especially with the Hangman Page. I don't see it going that way. As much as I'd love to see it, I think Hangman's going to get the victory here at Full Gear, and I think Kenny Omega, this would be the perfect time for Kenny to take the loss here and to take a couple months off, maybe a month and a half, 2 months off, kind of disappear for a while. He deserves the time off, right? And still do his EVP roles, because don't forget, he still has a pretty high role in the business side of AEW also, but give him his body some time to just heal and just recoup and just rest. And then by the time he makes his return, Adam Cole, leading the Elite guys, can be kind of taken over as the official leader in everyone's eyes, and have it be more and more obvious. Have Kenny get pissed off, right? Have Kenny Omega come back and kind of confront Adam Cole at that point. Adam Cole, who knows, he could be a champion at that time, depending on how long Kenny's going to be out or what direction you go in. But I think even, obviously, you don't even need the title, and that could just be an extra cherry on top. But it could be something, you know? It could be something. You have Kenny Omega out for 2 months. Adam Cole takes over leadership as the Elite leader, and Kenny's pissed. Kenny comes back to take his spot back. And it's a double, well, not a double turn, but it's a turn for Omega too, because everyone's going to be just so stoked that he's back. He's going to be facing Adam Cole and just clamoring for the matches that you can imagine between Cole and Omega. I just think that there's a lot that you could do with that too, and that could lead into their next pay-per-view at that point. So I just think there's a lot of ways that you could go with it, but you got to put the belt on Hangman Page here. And that's what I was saying earlier. I think You put the title on Hangman Page. You have Miro defeat Bryan Danielson and to win the tournament, and there's your challenger right there. It, as I was just talking about how the promos are going to be from Miro with him being happy and winning, and God finally repaying him and showing him his true purpose and the path and everything, and making up for losing the TNT title. Now Miro is gunning for the AEW World Championship, and the champion being Hangman Page. The promos and just the matchup we'll get from them is just going to be phenomenal. So that match itself, I'm just going to start manifesting it then. Hangman Page versus Miro. Take my money now. Just talk about stiff and hard hitting. Man, like I already can't wait for that. But that's the full breakdown of the card, guys. As far as surprises or anything like that, the main one obviously out there, besides the most, obviously, like your Keith Lees and Karrion Crosses, heck, nowhere near time for them to debut anywhere yet. They, at least minimum 30 days, max 90 days, so no time soon for them. But we saw Bray Wyatt floating out there, and I guess Braun Strowman as well, Adam Scherr, Wyndham Rotunda, respectfully, but there's been reports that Wyndham Rotunda, Bray Wyatt, has recently been part of a film for Hollywood and filming like an actual movie. So shout out to him and kudos to him. And if that's the case, then there was a photo of him. I forget who he was with, but obviously someone from the Hollywood world. But I don't know if that means his sole focus right now is being an actor. And if so, I can't wait, because that dude, his talents were sorely wasted, but maybe he wasn't meant for the wrestling world, as sad as that is to say. Maybe he was meant for the Hollywood world, but I don't think he's coming back. Or making a surprise debut at Full Gear. And I say that, and I could be way wrong. I feel like every time I say that just sets these people up to make a return. I was wrong on Brock Lesnar, I was wrong on Edge, but I don't feel it's time right now, especially if he's doing this whole movie thing, which, if he is, I'm stoked to see, because I'd love to see him in the actual movie to see what that would look like. But I don't know. Of course, I'd love to see it and to see what his character and his brain could create for all the freedom he would have in AEW. But I don't think it's going to happen right now. I think maybe we finish off the year with the roster that we have for AEW, and we just continue to just kind of just go off of the crop that we have here. And man, we have just the roster is so stacked. So I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen at Full Gear. But if it does, I will be the first on Twitter to be so fucking happy, because I'm a huge Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda fan, whatever he's going to call himself in AEW. So I'll be stoked, to say the least. But yeah, guys, that's the full breakdown of the card. I may be doing a show with another certain podcast that I've mentioned here before, if everything works out scheduling wise. But if not, I appreciate you guys just checking this out. And again, feel free to give me any type of feedback at ASHMANNS. Take care, guys. Bye bye.